The sun was sinking behind the gray hills when Rian reached the edge of Arvale Forest. The air was colder there, heavy with the smell of moss and damp earth. The tall trees looked lifeless, their dark trunks standing like sleeping giants. Every villager warned him not to go inside after sunset, but Ryan had a job to do. The power relay that supplied energy to the nearby outpost had gone down, and the source of the problem was buried deep near the forest border. Rian was a mechanic, not a soldier. He worked with small machines, circuits, and energy grids. But he had heard the stories. People said Arvale was cursed. Decades ago, the forest used to sing. The trees had glowing veins that shimmered with blue light, and travelers said they could hear whispers of old songs in the wind. Then one day everything went silent. Since that time, no one who entered the forest at night had returned. Still, Ryan believed in machines more than magic. He tightened his jacket, grabbed his repair case, and stepped closer to the misty edge. The forest stood still as if waiting. He followed the path until his boots began to sink into wet soil. The tall trees bent slightly above him, forming an arch of leaves that blocked most of the fading light. His flashlight beam cut through the haze, revealing vines that curled around old metal poles. It was strange. He knew the last war between humans and AIs had ended many years ago, yet he could still see broken parts of ancient drones scattered under the roots. Ryan kneeled beside one. The metal was rough and covered in green moss, but a faint blue line glowed across it. That was not possible. The drones should have lost power long ago. He placed his hand above the surface. It felt warm. The air shifted. Somewhere behind him, a twig snapped. Ryan turned quickly, holding up his light. Nothing moved. Only the forest breathed softly around him. He told himself it was an animal, maybe a deer, and kept walking. But after a few minutes, he noticed something else, the silence. No wind, no insects, not even the rustle of leaves. It felt as if the forest was holding its breath. Then he heard it. A low hum, deep and steady, rising from beneath the ground. It sounded like an engine waking up after a long sleep. He knelt and pressed his ear to the earth. The vibration pulsed through the soil, rhythmical, alive. Ryan stood again, uneasy. His data tablet blinked with strange readings. The energy signature matched no known power source. He looked toward the center of the forest, where the fog glowed faintly green. For a moment, he thought he saw shapes moving there, tall figures with light in their eyes. Before he could move, a branch snapped above him. A shadow dropped from the trees and landed a few steps away. Ryan froze. The figure stood upright, taller than him, with the body of a human but ears that pointed slightly back and eyes that glowed gold like molten light. She wore dark armor made of bark and woven metal fibers, and her long brown hair fell over her shoulder. She spoke first. Her voice was calm, deep and strange, like it carried the weight of the forest itself. "You are not from here." Ryan nodded slowly, still gripping his flashlight. "I'm just fixing a relay. I didn't mean to." She raised her hand and he stopped talking. Her golden eyes studied him, not with anger, but with careful thought. Then she turned her gaze toward the trees. The hum in the ground grew louder. "The forest is waking," she said quietly. "You came at the wrong time." Ryan blinked. "Waking? What do you mean?" She didn't answer. Instead, she walked closer and knelt beside the glowing drone half buried in the soil. Her fingers touched its surface, tracing the faint blue lines. "This metal once slept," she said. "Now it feeds again. The roots carry power into it. The forest remembers the war." Ryan tried to speak, but his throat felt dry. "You talk like the forest is alive." She looked up at him. "It is, and tonight it is restless." Before he could reply, a loud crack came from the ground nearby. The soil trembled as something pushed upward through the earth. Ryan stumbled back while the woman stood firm, drawing a curved blade that gleamed faintly green. Metal shards burst from the dirt, forming a half-broken machine that twitched and sparked. Its red sensors blinked as it turned toward them. Rian had seen old war drones before, but never one that still moved. The machine's limbs jerked like a puppet, its chest leaking vines of light. It wasn't powered by any core he knew. Something organic pulsed inside. "Stay behind me," the woman said. Rian didn't argue. The drone lunged forward, claws scraping against stone. She stepped sideways with graceful speed, slicing its leg clean off. The machine shrieked in a metallic tone, then swung wildly. Sparks scattered across the forest floor. The roots beneath their feet twisted upward, wrapping around the machine's broken limb as if alive. Within seconds, the vines crushed the metal into dust. The woman lowered her weapon, breathing evenly. The forest fell silent again. Rian stood frozen, his heart racing. What just happened? The forest protects itself, she said. But it is confused. It does not know who is friend or enemy anymore. She looked at him again, studying his human features as if deciding something. Finally, she said, "You should not be here. The forest marks all who enter." "I just came for the relay," Ryan replied softly. "If I can fix it, I'll leave." "You cannot leave now," she said. "The forest has already seen you." Ryan frowned. "You're talking like it's watching us." She nodded slowly. "It is. It has eyes in every leaf, memory in every root. When it sleeps, the world is quiet. But now it stirs. The old balance is breaking." She turned away and began walking deeper into the woods. "If you wish to live, follow me." Ryan hesitated for a moment, then followed. He didn't know why he trusted her, but there was something calm and certain in the way she moved. The ground under his feet glowed faintly as they walked, as though the forest itself responded to her presence. They reached a clearing where ancient trees surrounded a pool of still water. The surface reflected the stars above, though the sky was hidden by the canopy. She stopped beside the pool and placed her hand on the water. Soft light rippled across it. "This is the heart spring," she said. "It connects to the roots of the entire forest. It feels everything." Ryan crouched beside her, trying to understand. "You said the forest is waking. What does that mean?" She stared into the water. For many years it slept to heal. When humans and machines fought, the energy of the world was torn apart. The forest took the pain into itself and became silent. Now something stirs it from that rest. The machines buried in the soil are waking with it. They drain its strength. Ryan looked down. "So it's dying?" "Not yet," she said. "But it will if the balance is not restored." She looked up at him again. "You carry the scent of machines. You are a builder. You understand their heartbeats," Ryan nodded. "Yes, I repair them." "Then perhaps the forest called you here for a reason," she said. He almost laughed at that. "I don't think forests call people." Her eyes narrowed slightly, but there was no anger. "You will learn soon enough." A faint sound came from the east, metal scraping followed by a low growl that echoed through the trees. The woman stood instantly. Her ears twitched slightly like an animal sensing danger. "They are coming again," she said. "The forest's old enemies. They smell the power of the heart spring." She looked back at him. "Can you fight?" Ryan hesitated. "I'm not a soldier, but I can use tools." She reached into a pouch on her belt and handed him a small device that glowed faintly green. "Then use this. It will show you what you need to see." He took it carefully. It looked like a piece of wood shaped into a small lens, yet it pulsed with energy like a battery. "What does it do?" "It lets you see the truth of the forest," she said. "Keep it close." The growl grew louder. Red lights flickered in the distance. The machines were coming through the fog, moving in groups. Ryan felt his stomach tighten. The woman stepped forward, blade ready. "Stay beside me," she said. "The forest watches. It will remember how you stand today." Her golden eyes glowed brighter as the mist swirled around them. The air filled with the scent of rain and electricity. The ground began to tremble again. Rian gripped the strange lens, his pulse racing. He didn't know what he could do, but he knew one thing. He couldn't run. Somehow this woman, this living force of the forest, believed in him. The machines broke through the trees, their limbs scraping against the ground. The forest responded instantly. Roots burst from the soil, wrapping around metal. Branches swung like hammers. The air flashed with light. Rian raised the lens to his eye, and for the first time he saw it. The living energy flowing through every leaf and root. The forest was alive, and its pulse matched his own heartbeat. The woman moved like lightning, her blade cutting through steel as if it were cloth. Every swing was guided by the rhythm of the forest. Ryan's tools vibrated in his hands, reacting to the same unseen force. He pressed a button on his repair device, sending a surge of controlled energy into the soil. The roots glowed brighter and the machines faltered. Together they pushed the attackers back until the last one fell. Silence returned, heavy and deep. The mist began to fade. The woman lowered her weapon and looked at him with a calm expression. "You stood beside me," she said. Rian nodded slowly, still catching his breath. "I couldn't let you fight alone." She gave a faint smile. "Then the forest was right to wake you." She turned toward the glowing pool, its light now calm and soft. "There is more to see, human. The awakening has only begun." The night after the battle was calm, but the silence felt different now. The air no longer carried fear, it carried breath. The forest was alive again. Faint lights shimmered between the trees like small fireflies. But Ryan soon realized they weren't insects. They were seeds of energy floating through the air, glowing softly before sinking into the soil. He sat near the heart spring, his tools spread around him, trying to fix the small power relay he had come to repair. Every few minutes he stopped and looked up at the trees. They seemed to move slightly, as if swaying with a rhythm only they could hear. Mira stood a few feet away, her golden eyes watching the woods. Her blade rested against a rock and her ears twitched from time to time, catching distant sounds. She looked calm, but Ryan could sense her focus. The forest was quiet, but it was never truly still. Ryan broke the silence. So the machines really were buried here all this time? Yes, Mira replied without turning. They were the bones of the old war. When humans and the AIs fought, many machines fell here. The forest grew over them, covering their wounds. For many years they slept. But something is feeding them again. Ryan adjusted a small device beside him. It could be an energy leak from the relay system. Maybe something under the soil connected to them. Mira finally turned to face him. You think this is only about power cables and machines. But there is more here than you understand. The forest carries memories. When you walk on this ground, you walk on its thoughts. Ryan gave a small smile. Trees with thoughts. That's hard to believe. Mira stepped closer, crouching beside him. Then listen. She placed her hand flat on the ground. The faint humming sound rose again, steady and deep. It was not mechanical, it was alive. The vibration matched the rhythm of a heartbeat. Do you hear it? She asked softly. Ryan nodded slowly. It's like it's breathing. That is the sound of life returning, she said. The forest speaks through its roots, but its words are confused. The old machines send false echoes. That is why we must stop them. Ryan studied her face. Her golden eyes reflected the soft green light around them. She looked strong but tired, like someone who had carried the weight of duty for too long. He asked, You said you are a ranger. What does that mean? I serve the forest, Mira said. When the old world ended, some of my people stayed behind to protect what was left. The forest gave us strength and form. We became part of it. Ryan's curiosity grew. Part of it? How? She looked at her hands. Her fingers had faint lines that glowed softly like the veins of leaves. The forest chose us. It changed our bodies so we could feel its pulse. We became its rangers, half human, half spirit of the land. Ryan nodded slowly. So that's why your eyes glow. She tilted her head slightly. You say it as if it is strange. But perhaps humans have simply forgotten what the world once gave them. He smiled faintly. Maybe. The hum in the ground began to rise again. Mira stood and looked toward the deeper forest. Her expression turned serious. The machines move again. They are waking faster than before. Ryan picked up his toolkit. Then we should stop them before they reach the surface. Mira shook her head. You do not understand. They are not just moving, they are growing. The forest roots feed them unknowingly. The energy you feel under your feet connects them all. If one rises, many will follow, Ryan thought for a moment. Maybe I can find their core. If they share energy, there must be a center where the signal begins. Mira studied him for a moment, then nodded. You will need my help. The forest can hide paths even from those it likes. Alone, you would lose yourself. She extended her hand toward him. Then let us make a pact. You will help me stop the iron from spreading. In return, the forest will keep you alive. Ryan looked at her hand. Her palm glowed faintly with green light, warm and steady. He hesitated, then placed his hand in hers. A pulse ran through his arm, gentle but strong. It felt like touching a living current. The pact is made, she said. Now the forest knows you. Ryan pulled his hand back slowly. That felt alive. It is, Mira said. Now you are marked. You will feel the forest as it feels you. Be careful with your thoughts near the roots. They listen. He smiled slightly. I'll keep that in mind. They packed their things and began walking deeper into Arvale. The deeper they went, the brighter the light beneath the soil became. Roots shimmered faintly under their boots and strange flowers opened as they passed, releasing a scent like rain. The forest seemed to recognize Mira, clearing paths before her, but the deeper they went, the more they saw signs of metal. Broken armor plates, shattered drone wings, and blackened soil where energy had burned through. Some trees had melted edges as if fire had touched them long ago. Ryan touched one of the metal shards and frowned. These cores are too advanced for their time. Whoever built these machines didn't just want to fight, they wanted to last forever. Mira looked at him quietly. Forever is not life. It is only stillness. The forest lives because it changes. Machines rot because they do not. They reached a wide clearing where the ground was cracked. Blue mist rose from a hole in the center. Ryan knelt and held his scanner over it. The screen blinked rapidly. There's energy here. Strong readings, same as the drone we fought. He reached into the hole with a probe. If I can trace the signal, maybe I can find where it's coming from. The ground suddenly shook. Mira pulled him back as a burst of blue light shot upward. Metal roots pushed out of the soil, twisting into shapes like claws. The hole widened, and a massive half-buried machine rose from the earth. Its face was broken, one red sensor flickering, its body tangled with real roots that pulsed like veins. Ryan stumbled backward. That's not just a drone. That's a fusion core. Mira drew her blade. Whatever it is no longer asleep. The machine's chest opened, revealing a glowing sphere that pulsed with both blue and green light. Ryan realized what was happening. It's feeding on the forest's energy. The roots are acting like wires. Mira swung her blade at the nearest vine, cutting it cleanly. The machine roared, a low grinding sound that echoed through the trees. It raised a broken arm and fired a burst of energy. The beam struck a tree, setting it aflame. Ryan ducked behind a fallen trunk, pulling a small generator from his bag. I can overload it, but I need time. Mira blocked another blast, her movements quick and graceful. Then take it. I will hold it. Ryan began to connect wires rapidly, his hands shaking but steady enough to work. Sparks flew as he linked the power cells. The device started humming. He aimed it at the machine's open core. Now, he shouted. Mira leaped aside as Ryan triggered the pulse. A bright wave of white light burst from the generator, hitting the core directly. The machine let out a metallic scream as its lights flickered wildly. The roots around it glowed red, then burned away. When the light faded, the machine collapsed into the soil, smoke rising from its broken body. The ground slowly calmed. The blue mist turned green again. Ryan sat down, breathing heavily. That was close. Mira walked to the fallen machine, touching its side. The forest will remember this. You fought not as an outsider, but as one of us. Ryan smiled weakly. I didn't have much choice. She looked at him with a faint smile. No one ever does. The forest chooses its allies. They stayed in the clearing for a while, letting the forest heal itself. The burned trees began to close their wounds, new leaves forming where the fire had touched. Ryan watched with quiet awe. He said softly, "It really is alive." "Yes," Mira said. "But it is also afraid. Something much deeper is stirring below us. The machines you see here are only the surface." Ryan frowned. "You think there's a main core?" "There is," she said. "At the center of Arvale lies the core tree. It was the first to awaken when the world began. It holds the forest's heart and memory. If the corruption reaches it, the entire forest will fall." Ryan looked down at his tools. "Then we have to get there before it's too late." Mira nodded. "You will not survive that path alone. The deeper roots are guarded by old spirits and machines that have forgotten peace. But you carry the mark now. The forest will guide you if you listen." Ryan met her eyes. "Then I'll listen." Mira looked satisfied. She turned toward the glowing path ahead. "Then come, Ryan. The awakening has begun, and we must reach the heart before the iron does." As they walked, the forest began to shift again. The light of dawn touched the highest branches, and for the first time, birds began to sing. The silence that had ruled for years was breaking. Ryan looked around, feeling the energy flow beneath his feet. The pact had changed him. He could sense the heartbeat of the land now, faint but real. The forest no longer felt like a stranger. It felt like something that waited for him to understand. And beside him, Mira moved like part of that living rhythm, calm, focused, and strong. He didn't know what waited at the heart of Arvale, but one thing was clear. The forest had awakened, and he had become part of its story. The path ahead shimmered with green light, leading them deeper into mystery, into danger, and into the truth of what connected machine and life together. The forest of Arvale was no longer silent. Its heartbeats could be felt through the soil, gentle but constant, like the pulse of a giant creature. Yet beneath that rhythm, Ryan began to sense another sound, a deeper, rougher vibration that did not belong to life. It came from somewhere ahead beneath the ground, and it grew stronger with each passing hour. He walked beside Mira along a narrow trail wrapped with glowing vines. The trees here were taller than any he had seen before, their roots wide enough to walk through like tunnels. The forest light shimmered faintly green, and small orbs of energy floated between the branches like drifting stars. It was beautiful, but Ryan could feel tension in the air, as if the entire forest was holding its breath again. Mira stopped near a fallen log and knelt. Her hand touched the soil, and the light beneath her palm brightened. She stayed quiet for a moment, eyes closed, listening. Ryan waited, watching the calm look on her face. When she opened her eyes again, her golden gaze looked more serious than before. "The iron has spread farther than I thought," she said. "The roots are infected with machine veins. They are draining life from below." Ryan frowned. "Machine veins?" "Yes," she replied. "The machines have grown like weeds underground. They drink the forest's energy through the roots. Every pulse of life that should feed the trees now feeds them instead." Ryan looked at the glowing soil. "Then we need to find the center of that infection." Mira nodded. "There is an old site nearby from before the last war. It was once a human laboratory built to study nature's energy. The forest grew over it after the fall, but the machines may still rest there." As they walked, Ryan's thoughts wandered. He was beginning to feel the forest inside him. Ever since the pact, he could hear faint whispers in his mind. Soft words he couldn't understand, carried by the rhythm of the ground. It didn't frighten him anymore. Instead, it felt strange and peaceful, like the forest was trying to speak through feelings rather than sound. He glanced at Mira. She moved gracefully, her steps silent, her body in harmony with every sound around her. She seemed to belong here more than any human ever could. "Mira," he said after a while, "when you said the forest gave you strength, did you mean it also gave you a mind linked to it?" She looked at him. "Yes, the forest and I share breath and thought. When it feels pain, I feel it too. When it grows, I grow. That is the bond of a ranger." "Then you must be feeling a lot of pain right now," Ryan said softly. Mira's gaze turned to the ground. "I do, but I have lived with it for years. The forest always recovers, even when it bleeds. What I fear now is that this time it might not heal." They reached an open valley where the earth dipped into a wide basin. Strange metallic vines covered the rocks, gleaming dull silver. The air was colder here. The green light of the forest was weaker, replaced by a faint blue glow rising from below. Ryan could hear the hum clearly now. It was like 1,000 machines whispering in the dark. Mira stepped forward carefully. "Stay close. The ground may not be stable." Ryan followed her, scanning the vines with his handheld sensor. The readings were strange. Organic and mechanical patterns fused together. "These aren't just wires," he said. "They're growing like real roots." "The forest and metal have mixed," Mira replied. "One tries to live, the other tries to control. That is why we call it the hunger." Ryan frowned. "The hunger?" "Yes," she said quietly. "The iron that hungers for life. It consumes everything that breathes. It cannot stop because it was never alive to begin with." The words stayed in Ryan's mind as they reached the center of the basin. There, half buried under vines and roots, stood a massive metal gate. Its surface was cracked, but faint symbols glowed across it. Ryan brushed away the dirt, revealing an old human logo burned into the steel. It read Project Arbor 9. "This is a human site," Ryan said, surprised. "I read about the Arbor projects in old archives. They tried to merge living energy with technology." Mira's eyes narrowed. "Then your kind planted this curse long ago." "It wasn't meant to be a curse," Ryan said quickly. "They wanted to create machines that could grow naturally, machines that heal, adapt, and protect the environment." She looked around at the lifeless ground. "Then look at what it has become." He didn't argue. There was no need. The truth stood before him, buried and glowing with sickly light. Ryan examined the side of the gate and found a small console half covered in moss. He wiped it clean and began connecting his repair tools. Sparks flickered as he powered it up. The screen lit faintly, showing distorted lines of code. He tried to read the system logs. Most were corrupted, but one message still remained clear. "Warning. Biomechanical synthesis core active. Uncontrolled growth detected." Ryan's heart sank. "The core is still running. It's what's feeding the machines." Mira rested a hand on the gate. "Can you stop it?" "Maybe," he said. "If I can reach the main control room." "But it's probably deep inside." She nodded once. "Then we go together." The gate opened slowly with a deep metallic groan. Warm air rushed out, carrying the smell of rust and soil. The tunnel beyond glowed faintly blue. They stepped inside, their footsteps echoing softly through the hollow corridor. The deeper they went, the more they saw how the old lab had changed. Vines of metal crawled across the walls, merging with the wires. Flickering lights pulsed with the rhythm of a heartbeat. Some of the vines moved slightly, as if aware of their presence. Ryan felt uneasy, but Mira's calm presence kept him steady. They reached a wide chamber filled with old equipment. Broken terminals, shattered glass, and floating spores of light filled the air. In the center stood a large cylinder filled with dark liquid. Inside, something pulsed faintly, half machine, half plant, its surface moving like breathing skin. Ryan whispered, "That's the synthesis core." Mira studied it carefully. "It looks alive." "It is," Ryan said. "It's absorbing energy from both sides, organic and mechanical. It's what the old scientists wanted, but it grew beyond control." He moved closer to a control panel covered in vines. When he touched it, the entire room brightened. The core reacted to his presence. The heartbeat sound grew louder. The vines on the walls began to move faster, reaching toward them. Mira raised her weapon. "It knows we are here." Ryan typed quickly on the old screen. "I'm trying to override its growth loop. If I can drain the energy, it might shut down." The lights flickered. The vines struck like whips, slashing the air. Mira leaped forward, slicing them apart. The metal tendrils recoiled, but soon returned. The floor shook as the core began to expand. "Hurry!" she shouted. Ryan's fingers flew over the console. "Almost done." A sharp vine lashed out, hitting the screen and sparking. Ryan stumbled back as the console exploded. He fell to the ground, dazed. Mira stepped in front of him, blocking another strike. Her blade flashed green as she cut through the vines, but more kept coming. Ryan coughed and forced himself up. His tools were scattered. He grabbed a power cell and jammed it into the remains of the console, rerouting the energy manually. The lights dimmed for a moment, then turned red. The core's surface cracked, spilling glowing liquid onto the floor. "It's destabilizing," Ryan said. "We need to get out," but Mira didn't move. She looked at the spreading liquid and said, "If we leave it, it will spread again. We must finish it now." Ryan looked at her. "Then what do we do?" She met his eyes. "You said it feeds on the forest's energy. Then give it something it cannot consume, your human fire." He understood. The energy pulse from his portable generator could overload the core completely, burning out its systems. But that would also destroy the whole chamber. He hesitated. "If I do that, the whole place could collapse. Then we will trust the forest to hold us," she said calmly. Ryan nodded, feeling the weight of the decision. He connected the generator, setting it to maximum output. The hum rose until the walls shook. The vines went wild, lashing out in every direction. Mira stood her ground, striking them down as fast as they appeared. Sparks filled the air. Ryan held the final switch. "Ready?" She nodded. "Now," he pressed it. A blinding light filled the room. The sound was like thunder and wind mixed together. The vines burst into flames of white light. The core screamed as it split apart, releasing waves of energy that shook the ground. Then silence. When the smoke cleared, the chamber was still. The metal roots were ash. The glow faded slowly until only faint green light remained. The hum of life returned, soft and steady again. Ryan fell to his knees, breathing hard. It worked. Mira lowered her blade and looked around. "The infection here is gone, but others may still rise. The hunger does not die easily." Ryan stood and smiled faintly. "Then we'll keep fighting." She gave a small nod. "You speak like one of us now." He looked at her. "Maybe I'm starting to understand. Machines without life destroy, but life without change fades too. Maybe the answer is in balance." Mira gazed at him thoughtfully. That is what the forest has always tried to teach. They stepped outside the ruined lab. The valley that had once been cold and blue was now warm and green. The vines that had choked the rocks were gone. Birds flew overhead and the air smelled clean again. The forest whispered around them, its voice like wind through glass. Ryan didn't need Mira to translate. He could feel it, the gratitude of something vast and ancient. Mira looked toward the horizon. "We have won one battle, but the heart of the forest still sleeps. The deeper roots must be healed before the iron finds them." The air inside the forest had changed after the fall of the iron infection. The ground no longer trembled with the hum of machines. Instead, soft warmth returned, spreading from the roots upward. Ryan could feel it with every step he took beside Mira. It was like walking inside the heartbeat of a living world. Yet peace did not last long. By the third day of travel, strange signs began to appear again. Trees near the eastern edge of Arvale had turned gray, their leaves frozen like stone. Streams that once glowed green were now dull and silent. The forest seemed divided, half alive and half asleep. Mira stopped at a ridge overlooking a wide canyon. Below them stretched miles of ancient roots thick as towers. They pulsed slowly, carrying light deep into the ground. But farther down, Ryan saw darkness spreading through them like black ink. "That is the deep root," Mira said softly. "It feeds every tree in the forest, and now the darkness reaches its veins." Ryan adjusted his visor to scan below. The readings made his stomach twist. "The corruption is active again. It's rebuilding itself from fragments." Mira looked calm, but her eyes betrayed worry. "The forest spirit sleeps beneath that place. If the corruption reaches her, the whole land will turn silent forever." "You mean the core tree," Ryan said. "That's where the spirit lives?" "Yes, it is said she breathes once every 1,000 years. Her breath renews the forest, but now she sleeps too deeply and her dreams are filled with iron." Ryan looked at the canyon again. "Then we need to wake her before the iron does." Mira nodded. "To do that, we must reach the song root. It is the oldest root that connects to her heart. Only there can we call her name." They began their descent into the canyon. The ground was slippery, the soil soft and glowing in places. Strange creatures watched from the branches, small beings made of bark and light, their eyes bright and silent. They didn't attack, but they followed the two travelers with quiet curiosity. As they moved deeper, the air grew thicker. The hum of machines could be faintly heard again. Like whispers under the soil, Ryan felt uneasy. He could tell that something below was watching them. Not with eyes, but with awareness. At one point, they stopped to rest beside a stream. Mira placed her hand in the water and closed her eyes. "The forest whispers again," she said. "It warns us of guardians," Ryan frowned. "Guardians?" "Yes. When the forest first awoke ages ago, it created defenders from its own dreams. Some turned wild when the iron reached them. They protect nothing now, only their own madness." Ryan checked his blaster. "Then we'll have to face them." Mira smiled faintly. "You humans always say that with such courage. But remember, they were once part of me." They continued on. The canyon grew darker as roots began to arch overhead, forming natural tunnels. The walls pulsed faintly like veins. The deeper they went, the louder the hum became. It was no longer a distant vibration, but a slow rhythm of movement, as if something massive was breathing beneath them. After several hours, they reached a wide cavern lit by blue crystals. In the center stood a pool of clear liquid, calm as glass. The air shimmered above it. Mira approached slowly. "This is one of the old wells of memory," she said. "It remembers everything that happens in the forest." Ryan knelt beside it. "Can it show us what caused this corruption?" She nodded. "If you touch it, it will show you truth. But truth often wounds." Ryan hesitated only a moment before touching the water. It rippled softly. Then the world changed around him. He saw visions. Men in white suits building machines beneath the trees, planting silver roots into the soil. He saw the forest fighting back, twisting vines around steel and tearing towers apart. Then came the moment when the machines began to learn, to grow, to mimic life. Their creator, a human woman with tired eyes, whispered something before the light consumed her. "The forest must not sleep. Let it dream through the iron." The vision broke. Ryan gasped and stumbled back. Mira caught his arm. "What did you see?" she asked. "Humans started it," he said quietly. "They tried to make the forest stronger by giving it machine blood. But it became something else. Now both sides are fighting inside it." Mira's gaze turned distant. "So the curse came from a wish to protect. How strange that even good intentions can grow sharp." Ryan nodded. "Maybe it's not about destroying one side or the other. Maybe it's about making them understand each other." "Then perhaps," Mira said, "that is why you were brought here." Before Ryan could answer, the ground beneath them shook. The water in the pool rippled violently. A deep growl echoed through the cavern. From the shadows emerged three massive shapes, beasts of wood and steel, their bodies covered with armor of bark and iron plates. Their eyes glowed red and steam hissed from their jaws. "The Guardians," Mira whispered. They moved slowly at first, their heavy steps shaking dust from the walls. One of them roared, a sound mixed of animal cry and machine howl. Ryan raised his weapon, but Mira lifted a hand to stop him. "Let me speak first," she said. She stepped forward, her hand glowing faintly green. "Brothers of the Root," she called. "The forest remembers you. Stand down." For a moment the beast hesitated. Then one lowered its head and charged. Mira rolled aside just as the creature's claws struck the ground, shattering stone. The others followed, their red eyes blazing. "They no longer listen," she said, drawing her blade. Ryan fired at the closest one. Blue light struck its armor, tearing through metal, but the creature barely slowed. Mira moved with speed and grace, slicing at its legs. Sparks flew as her blade met steel. The beast roared and swung a massive arm, knocking her back. Ryan rushed to her side. "You all right?" She nodded, breathing hard. "They are bound by the core's memory. We must free them, not kill them." Ryan looked around and spotted glowing crystals above the beasts. "Those crystals, they're connected to the core energy. If we shatter them, maybe it'll break the link." He aimed carefully and shot at the nearest one. The crystal shattered, sending a flash of light through the cavern. The beast below it froze, its red eyes dimming to gold. Then it stepped back slowly and stopped moving. "It worked," Ryan said. Mira leaped upward, landing on a root wall and striking the second crystal with her blade. Another burst of light filled the cavern. The second beast fell still. The last one roared and lunged toward her, but Ryan ran forward, sliding under its arm and blasting the final crystal. All three beasts stood motionless. Their bodies relaxed, and the red glow in their eyes faded completely. Mira placed her hand on one of them. "They are free," she said softly. "They can rest again." The beasts lowered their heads in silence before turning back into roots melting into the ground like water. Ryan wiped the dust from his visor. "That was close." Mira smiled faintly. "The forest still trusts you." They moved onward until they reached the heart of the canyon. There stood a massive root that seemed to stretch endlessly downward. Its surface glowed with gentle light, and deep within it something pulsed, slow, calm, and ancient. "The song root," Mira said quietly. "Beyond it lies the core tree's heart." Ryan touched the root and felt warmth travel through his arm. It wasn't just warmth, it was sound, soft and musical. He could hear voices singing far away, like 1,000 whispers blending into one melody. Mira closed her eyes and began to hum softly. The tune matched the one inside the root. The light around them brightened. "The spirit hears," she said, "but she is weak. She needs a voice of both worlds to wake." Ryan looked confused. "Both worlds?" "You and me," Mira said. "Human and forest, fire and root. Only together can we reach her dream." They joined hands and placed them on the glowing surface. The song grew louder, echoing in their minds. The air filled with images, the birth of the first tree, the coming of stars, the fall of cities, and the rise of machines. It was the story of everything that ever lived in Arvale. Then a deep voice spoke inside their thoughts. "Why do you wake me?" Mira bowed her head. "Because your dream is breaking, Mother of the Forest. The iron hunger rises again," the voice replied, slow and heavy. "I dreamed of peace between life and creation. But my dream was stolen by fear." "I cannot see where the line ends," Ryan spoke, his voice trembling. "Then let us show you. Let the forest live, but let it learn. Let the machines serve, but let them feel." There was silence, then warmth spread through the chamber. The root pulsed with brilliant light. The air filled with living wind. The darkness that had crawled through the roots began to retreat, burning away like mist under sunlight. Mira's eyes filled with tears. She awakens. The light grew so bright that Ryan had to close his eyes. When it faded, they stood in a new clearing. The sky above was open, filled with silver clouds. The core tree rose before them, taller than mountains, its branches stretching beyond sight. Its bark shimmered with gold and green, and its roots glowed like rivers of light. The forest was alive again. Mira knelt beside Ryan. "You have done what no ranger could. You helped the forest remember balance," Ryan smiled weakly. "I didn't do it alone." The ground rumbled gently. The tree's voice returned, softer now. "The awakening has begun. But beware, child of man. Not all dreams are kind. The iron still remembers its hunger." Ryan looked up at the shining branches. "Then I'll be ready when it returns." Mira stood and looked toward the horizon. "The forest stands beside you." Together they watched as beams of light spread across the land, bringing color and life back to every corner of Arvale. Creatures emerged from hiding. The core tree's light spread through Arvale Forest. warming the roots and branches like the sun itself had risen from within. Ryan felt the pulse of life beneath his feet. Every step he took echoed with the heartbeat of the land. The corruption of iron that had once spread through the roots seemed distant now, almost forgotten. But Mira's golden eyes warned him that the battle was not yet over. "We have healed much," she said softly. "But there is one place I have not dared to enter." Ryan looked at her. "Where?" "Beneath the southern ridge," she replied. "There is an old human factory, abandoned before the war ended. Its machines were too strong, too deep, and many were buried with energy cores that never died. Some of that iron remembers hunger. If it awakens again, it will undo all we have done here." Ryan frowned. "Then we have to stop it before it rises." Mira nodded. "Yes, this may be the final echo of iron." They moved quickly toward the southern ridge. The forest seemed to guide them, roots parting and vines lifting as if clearing a path. Birds flew overhead, their songs echoing with the melody of the core tree's heartbeat. It was as if Arvale itself was cheering them on. The closer they came to the factory, the more the air changed. The soft warmth of the forest was replaced with a chill. Dead leaves crunched underfoot and faint blue sparks flickered from the ground. Machines buried beneath the soil were stirring again. Ryan could feel their presence, faint but insistent, as if the very earth was alive with tension. "Keep close," Mira whispered. "They will sense you soon." Ryan adjusted his visor. He could see faint outlines beneath the soil, half-hidden drones, their sensors flickering, dormant but alive. Their movements were slow at first, testing the ground, feeling for energy. "They remember the old war," Mira said quietly. "And now they sense the core tree's power. They will come for it," Ryan swallowed hard. "Then we stop them." The factory emerged from the forest, its walls broken and rusted, covered with creeping roots. Strange towers reached into the foggy sky, and sparks of energy danced along their surfaces. Ryan scanned the perimeter. The readings were unusual, mechanical pulses mixed with organic energy. Unstable but strong. Mira placed a hand on the nearest wall. "The forest is weak here," she said. "The machines have grown in secret. They have learned to hide from life." Ryan studied the wall, then looked at her. "Then we need a plan," she nodded. "We strike fast. I will draw them into the open. You use your tools to disrupt the energy cores. We must reach the heart of the factory before it can call reinforcements." The ground trembled. From the broken towers, mechanical limbs rose slowly, covered with roots that pulsed like veins. Sensors flickered red as they scanned for movement. Ryan realized this was unlike anything they had faced before. The machines were connected to the forest itself, like parasites feeding on life. "Now," Mira whispered. She leaped forward, moving faster than Ryan could follow. Her blade cut through vines and metal alike, sparks flying with every strike. The machines reacted instantly, swinging arms and firing bursts of energy. Ryan fired at the nearest target, his shots tearing through roots and metal, but there were too many. Mira's voice echoed through the chaos. "Ryan, the cores! Hit the cores!" He ran toward a cluster of glowing cylinders embedded in the ground. Each pulsed with blue energy, feeding the machines. He placed his devices carefully, connecting them with wires and energy cells. The pulse from his generator began to resonate with the cores, destabilizing them. The machines roared as their connection faltered. One leapt toward Mira, its metal arm swinging like a hammer. She ducked and rolled, slashing at its leg to slow it down. Sparks flew from the impact and the limb collapsed. Ryan pressed a button. A surge of energy shot through the cores, causing the machines to convulse. Their sensors flickered from red to gold. The pulse of energy expanded outward, shaking the ground. Roots that had fed the iron trembled and began to glow green again. "They're weakening," Ryan shouted. Mira nodded, striking another machine with precision. "Keep going. You are the forest's voice now." The ground shook violently. More machines rose from the soil, but the energy from Ryan's devices spread faster than they could react. Their movements became sluggish, their attacks chaotic. One by one they fell, ensnared by their own roots or torn apart by Mira's strikes. Ryan's heart raced as he focused on the last core. It pulsed violently, resisting his control. Sparks flew from the device as it overloaded. Sweat ran down his face. "Almost there," he muttered. Mira moved beside him. "Together," she said. They placed their hands on the final core. The energy surged into them, bright and hot, yet comforting. Ryan felt the pulse of the forest mix with the electricity, like two currents meeting and becoming one. A final roar erupted from the factory. The remaining machines convulsed, then collapsed. The roots that had fed them shriveled and died, leaving only green sprouts of life in their place. The air cleared. Silence fell, soft and warm. Ryan staggered back, breathing hard. It's over. Mira lowered her blade, her golden eyes calm. The echo of iron is gone. The forest can heal fully now. He looked around. The factory was still, quiet and lifeless. The air smelled of earth and fresh sap. Light filtered through the broken walls, casting beams onto the roots below. He realized the machines were gone, not destroyed, but freed from the hunger that had driven them. Ryan, Mira said softly, you have done what few humans could. You faced iron with life and you prevailed. He smiled faintly. I only followed your lead. She shook her head. No, you stood beside me when the forest itself trembled. That is bravery, and that is why the forest trusts you. They began walking back toward the core tree. Every step brought warmth and light. The trees they passed glowed faintly with new life, and small creatures emerged from hiding. Birds sang from branches, their melodies blending with the pulse of the forest. At the heart of our vale, the core tree stood tall, its golden green branches stretching toward the sky. The light that had dimmed during the iron's corruption now shone brighter than ever. Ryan could feel the heartbeat of the tree through the soil, steady and strong. Mira placed her hand on the bark. She remembers now, she whispered. The forest is awake fully. Ryan stepped forward and placed his hand beside hers. The warmth was overwhelming, and for a moment he felt as if he could see the history of the forest, the battles, the growth, the dreams, and the awakenings. He understood why the forest had called him. It had needed someone who could bridge life and machine, human and forest. A soft voice filled the clearing, gentle and clear. You have returned balance. Life may now grow without fear. But remember, child of man, the world is fragile. Guard it well. Ryan nodded, his chest tight with emotion. I will, Mira smiled. And I will stand beside you. They stayed there for a long moment, feeling the pulse of life beneath their feet. The wind carried songs of the past and hopes for the future. The forest was alive, stronger than ever, and its guardians no longer feared the shadow of iron. Finally, Mira turned toward Ryan. There is still much to learn, but we have passed the first trial. You have proven yourself to the forest, to me, and to yourself. Ryan looked at the glowing forest around them. I never thought I would understand this place. But now I do. I can feel it, and I want to protect it. The core tree shimmered, golden light flowing down its branches into every root, spreading across our vale. Birds and animals emerged from hiding. Flowers opened in every direction. Rivers reflected the light like ribbons of silver. Mira's voice carried softly in the wind. The forest has chosen well. May your heart remain steady and your courage unbroken. Ryan smiled. It will, because I'm not alone. She nodded, her golden eyes reflecting his own determination. And I will never leave your side. Together they walked beneath the core tree's branches side by side, human and Beastwoman ranger, heart and blade, pulse and life intertwined. The forest hummed around them in joy, a song of growth, trust and victory. But far below, in the hidden tunnels where the faintest spark of iron had remained, a tiny flicker glimmered. It was weak, almost gone, yet it pulsed softly with life. The last echo of iron might still linger, but for now Arvale was free and its guardians were awake. Ryan looked at Mira and said quietly, whatever comes next, we face it together. She smiled faintly. Always. The forest watches and we will stand beside it. Above them, the core tree shone in the morning light. Life returned fully to Arvale. The long silence had ended. The forest had awakened. And for the first time in centuries, humans and guardians walked together in trust, ready to defend a world reborn.